So, good morning, everybody. You know, I know you guys get that so many times. You come in, hey, good morning, and you know, and then good morning again, and good morning. But really, guys, it is a good morning. When you walked in today, it was beautiful outside. And today is gorgeous, and I encourage you is that after today, we get out of here, that you go spend time with your family, and you guys kind of go and enjoy this day, because you know, guys, you know what's right around the corner is the rain, the clouds, all this stuff. That's just going to be. You're going to be like, well, I want to go outside. I was missing. Where's that good day at? That's what's going to happen. And you're going to go, okay, I should have took advantage. I should have took Mike's advice. So there's a couple other things we were talking about, this October thing, this Halloween thing, where we go, hey, we get to pick Mike's costume. There's, you know, it's not just the naughty nurse that you guys can't put me in. It's any of those scantily costumes that you guys go into you go to the costume store and you turn your head, kid. We got to walk. I'm not wearing any of those, guys. I'm not going to. Because you really don't want me to wear that. Do you know how embarrassing you're going to be when you go, hey, this is my pastor who's wearing fishnet stockings. What's wrong here? You know, you don't want to do that. You know, we want to be able to come in and have, he's wearing, I'll tell you what, my kids would love you to make me dress as like Sully from, the Monsters. So they would love that. I'll give you a couple other ideas. I'd like to just dress as Pastor Mike. That'd be good too, you know. So, today we're starting this new series, and it's how to change your world in 52 days. And when you hear that, most of us go, I can't change what's going on in my world in 52 days. Well, you can start changing it in 52 days. You can really start diving in. And really today, most of the time we look at this and some of us go, I'm the best of the best. I am Van Damme of karate. Or, maybe he was kind of a fake, I guess. Maybe you're something else. But a lot of us, we go, I am the best of the best at whatever it is. We have things that we go, I am the best salesperson. I can sell ice to Eskimos easily. I can do this. I can do that. We all have these things I am so good at. Well, guess what? This story is not for you. This story is about people who are ordinary people, because that's who God uses. God uses ordinary people. He actually specializes in ordinary people. He specializes in people that are broken, people that look at their past and they go, what happened? What's going on? He specializes in that. He doesn't specialize in people that have it all together. It's not how it works. People that have it all together seem to kind of shine on by and just keep walking. He specializes in those who need him. We're going to be talking about Nehemiah, and really when you open up the book of Nehemiah, it's one of the most amazing stories in Scripture. You read this, and you start looking at it, and this man, he's not a priest, he's not a prophet, he's not a warrior, he's not a king, but he saw something that bothered him. He just saw something, and he goes, man, I can fix that. I need to make that better, and it bothers him, and it sat with him, and it sat on his heart, and he goes, I can fix that. But how? How can I do this? What can I do to make a difference? The walls were broken down in Jerusalem. And so for a lot of us, we can experience what the walls being broken down are. Our government, the walls are kind of broken down. You look at this and you go to our families. Our walls are broken down. A lot of our families are broken. A lot of our families, some of us haven't talked to our parents in years. Some of us haven't talked to siblings in years. The walls are broken. Our churches, the walls are broken. Our communities are stricken with poverty, and the walls are broken. Over and over and over again, we look at these things, and we can look at the different things where the walls are broken. We have people that have curable diseases that can't get treatment. The walls are broken. They are. And when you hear that, and when you hear these statements, you start looking at it, you start thinking about it, because all of you guys are going, yeah, that is true. It's broken. Broken, broken. You hear these things, but they don't break your heart like it did Nehemiah back then. We kind of go on our daily business. Oh, our churches suck. That's cool. I don't really go anyway. Our government's shut down. Well, it's been that way for years. They've never really done anything. You start getting into it and you start looking at families. I haven't talked to them for years. It just becomes normal, everyday things. The walls of Jerusalem had been down for 140 years at this point. 140 years, the walls had been rubble. And some people started moving back. Some people started coming back and going, hey, you know what? That's our Holy Land. We need to go back there. And they started moving back into the community. They started moving back in. And the first thing they did, they started rebuilding a church. They started rebuilding the temples. We go, why were the walls down for 140 years? What happened? Well, God's always had this thing. God comes out and goes, I really wish you would obey me and follow me and do what I asked you to do. And the Israelites go, we know better. We go our own direction. And so he turned them over to the Babylonians. And the Babylonians came in and just destroyed the city, literally. They came in and the place was rubble. But it shows that when we get far from God, God brings us back in. He does it over and over and over again. As we get further and further away from him, he goes, well, what do I have to do? What fork do I have to put in the road now in order to bring you back into me? What do I have to put in now? Or you have to make a decision. Do I follow God, or do I let him put me into slavery? Do I follow God, or do I continue making this house payment that's $10,000 more a month than I can afford? Do I follow God, or do I continue having this car that I can't afford? Do I follow God, or do I continue living a life of sin? He continues to put these obstructions just like he did for them back then. And he goes, well, guess what? You're going to go into captivity. And that's what happens. They're in captivity to the Persians. They're running around. And some people came back. They rebuilt the temple. But the walls remained down, and they were vulnerable. And it was kind of embarrassing. When you think about it, I got this thing at my house right now. So a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you guys knew, we had this huge windstorm. Came through, and there was like 40-mile-an-hour winds. And my fence couldn't handle it. And so what happened is my front fence is now laying in my backyard because it fell over. Well, as people drive down the street, it is embarrassing. People see it. They see what's going on. They're like, what is wrong with this dude? Why doesn't he fix his fence? This is the same thing guys, I tell you, I live on Sparrow Lane. You drive by, you know his house is mine. The fence is on the ground. This is an actual story. It's not one of these things that I just said, hey, I'm going to make this up and put it in here. No, it's an actual story. The fence is on the ground. But this is exactly what's happening in Jerusalem. The fence is laying down on the ground. The walls are down, and people are driving by, and they see all of your business. They go, why is it that he hasn't mowed his backyard in like 6 months? What's wrong with him? What's all that stuff in his shed? They look at it, and they go, what is all this? We are vulnerable, and people look at it, and it's embarrassing. And this is exactly what happens. Now, Nehemiah is a cupbearer. And we hear cupbearer in today's time would be a butler. A cupbearer would be somebody, and back then, really what he would do is that the king would go, I want some wine, and the cupbearer would go get the cup, he would fill it with wine, and he would take a sip of it to make sure that it wasn't poison. So really, the king kind of thought of him as being disposable anyway. That's really what the king thought. But he still had to be treated well, because if he didn't drink it, then the king would be off. Right? That's the most common way these guys died back then. They were poisoned. And what happens is he comes in and he goes, somebody has to do something. Why not me? This cupbearer, this butler, this guy that's disposable. You get into Nehemiah, and we're going to start right at Nehemiah 1. It's Nehemiah 1:1, and you start reading it, and it goes, the words of Nehemiah. In the month of Kislev, which is now, by the way, October, you read this. In the 20th year, while I was in the citadel of Susa, one of my brothers came from Judah with some other men, and I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that survived the exile, and also about Jerusalem. And they said to me, those who survived the exile are back in the province and are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. Now, when you hear this, and we got to go, actually, I think there's another line here that we're going to read. My iPad likes to freeze up sometimes on me, and it says, when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Now, we're going to talk about these three qualities that you hear in verses 4. When you read this, Nehemiah 1, verse 4, you hear this. And if you don't have a Bible, we can get you a Bible. And if you don't have one at home, you can take the one that we have. So if you need a Bible, please put your hand up and we'll get you a Bible right now. Three qualities God can use in you. All of us, we need to sit down when something happens and we hear about it and it hurts and it breaks our heart and we hear about this and we go, what am I going to do? How am I going to change it? The first thing is that you really have to feel that pain and you need to sit down and cry. You just need to sit back and you just need to it needs to sit in your heart and you need to really look at it. Is this something that you need to have and need to go through? He says, when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. I sat down and I cried. It hurt so much It bothered me so much inside that I sat there and I cried. What are the things that bother you like that? When you see it, when you see this travesty that happens, you go, and I know as guys, we don't go, oh, I'm going to cry, I'm going to go back, oh, I'm going to sit here and weep. No, we don't do that as guys. But we feel it, and we fight back the tears, because that's what we do as guys. Nobody can see us cry. Oh, I'm vulnerable. Nobody can see that. Nobody can see that. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's go rewind for most of you guys. You guys watch this movie called Old Yeller. And at the end, Mom, why did I have to kill a dog? You were crying then. It bothered you. It hurt. There's other things that happen just the same way. There's things that you hear about. There's things that come on. You just hear it and you go, oh, man. What? And they hurt. Nehemiah lived in Persia. It was 1,000 miles away. So it's kind of like from here to Phoenix. So if you live here and you heard about a story in Phoenix, most of us go, it's 1,000 miles away. What can I do? There's not much I can do. And he lived in comfort. Things are pretty good for him. He lives in the palace. He has people that take care of him. He has status. He has influence. And he's really got things pretty good. Most of us, we look at this and we've got things pretty good too. We hear about these countries and we hear about things that are happening in all these different places. We can actually go where this story is taking place, which is modern day Iran. That's where this is right now. And we think that, things are horrible there, because they are horrible there. But we hear about this and we go, somebody else can take care of it. But he didn't do that. He didn't go, that's not my problem. I didn't just read it, retweet it, and move on. He actually gets to this point. He looks at it and goes, I have to do something about this. And, there's somebody else who comes out, and it's the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. You know what he does after he cries? He goes and changes something. He makes a difference. The guy who we talk about, the guy who we look at and go, our whole foundation of the Christianity religion, he cried too. The most important thing, he sits down and he goes, we have to fix this. What breaks your heart? What is it? What breaks your heart? What sits in your heart right now? Is it child abuse? Like Cameron hears about child abuse. He'll come over to your house and be like, hey, what are you doing? It breaks his heart. It's one of those things that when you come from a household where you've been adopted out, and you're like, hey, what's going on? It hurts. What breaks your heart? Is it physical abuse? Is it sexual abuse when you hear about that? Is it human trafficking? When you hear about people being smuggled in, does that hurt? Because that hurts me. When you start hearing about this, do you hear about kids being bullied at school? Does that break your heart? When you start hearing about people going through poverty or hunger, maybe it's because they don't have a relationship with God. That breaks my heart the most. For me, it makes me cry. When people walk in here and they don't have a relationship with God at all, it hurts me. And that's the reason why this church exists. It's because I will sit back and I will go, how do I fix that? How do I make it better? What can I do? God, give me wisdom. What is it that you go through? What is it that breaks your heart? Maybe it's me with my laid down fence. You walk by, you drive by our house and you go, I got to fix that fence because I would love to have you come over. Maybe it's, unmowed lawns. I don't know. What breaks your heart? What is it? What is it that you look at and go, I can't stand this? There's lines on your bulletin right now. Because all of us have things that sit on our heart that we hear about it and we go, oh, man. It makes us sit there and go, what can I do to change that? You get to the point where you want to sit down and just cry. I can fix this. It hurts. What am I going to do? You have to let it in. You have to kind of feel that pain. You have to embrace the burden. It's not one of these things that we brush off our shoulder because we can't. We have to let it in and we have to embrace it. We have to go, I'm going to change that. I'm going to fix it. It's got to be important to you. It's just like when something happens catastrophic in your family. Your parents get sick. You go, what can I do to fix that? You have a kid that's going through tragedy. What can I do? You are passionate about it. Where is your passion? And where does it lie? Because you will fix it then. But you have to embrace it. You have to let it in. And most of us Most of us don't. Most of us, we look around and we go, look, we're going so many different directions. There's this disunity in Christ. And we don't even hear the knock on the door. We don't even hear him going, knock, knock, knock. Hey, I want you to take care of this. We are so far and so hidden and so I don't care about anybody but myself. How do we fix it? What do we do? And some of us, we look at it and go, I'm only one person. How can I change anything? It's just me, God. How can I change it? Just me. And really what it tells us in the Bible is that we need to invoke the God of heaven. God plus one always equals a majority. God plus one always equals a majority. If you have God with you, you will conquer, you will overcome. But you have to have God with you. It is one of those things that you look at and you go, if I'm going to go try and tackle this all on my own, you will fail. But when you have God with you, you succeed, you grow, you accomplish so much more, and all of a sudden people fall at their feet. The second thing is that we hear about what Nehemiah does is he kneels down and he prays. He just prays. He just gets to this point. He hears about this. He comes out and he hears, God, I'm crying. I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? And the first thing he does is he goes, I'm crying out to you. And then he drops and he just gets down on his knees and goes, God, how do we change this? How do I make it better? He drops to his knees and he begins to pray. There is so often that we do not seek God's guidance, that we try and accomplish tasks all on our own. We hear about these things and we go, I can take care of that. When we do not just drop and pray and go, God, lead me. God, give me guidance. God, show me what you want to do. Because God may not go to Nehemiah and go, I want you to go rebuild the walls. Yeah, I understand you're hurting, but I don't want you to go rebuild the walls. I want you to stay right where you're and keep drinking wine. He needed to hear God's voice. He needed to hear what God was going to tell him. And sometimes we have to go a little further and we need to fast. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. For some days. He didn't just go, I thought about it for 30 seconds. God, I spent time with you and pray. I'm out. See you later. For days. He let God talk to him. He mourned. He read his Bible. He spent time in the Word. It wasn't immediate. It was, let me think about this and move forward. He wasn't a leadership genius. He needed to investigate. He needed to strategize. He needed to have delegates. He needed to have people around him. But he knew he was going to face opposition. Guys, every time we do something for Christ or for God, guess what happens? We face opposition. So when you walk out of the door and you go, hey, I'm going to go fix something. I'm going to go take care of it. Guess what's going to happen? If you are doing it for God, the walls are going to start being erected. And you're going to have to start breaking down barriers. And you're going to have to go start taking care of stuff. You're going to go, well, I'm trying to follow you, God. Why is this happening? It's not God erecting the barriers. It's the people against you, the community that's against us, and the devil that continues to pop up these things and go, what do you mean I can't go that direction? I got to go around this wall? We have to figure out ways to adapt and overcome. We have to figure out ways to get out there. But we continue to sit over and over again, and we go, a wall came up. Oh, that must not have been God. You're going to face opposition. You're going to. Life is going to be full of opposition when you are doing the right things. That opposition, though, needs to be covered by intense and intimate prayer. It needs to be intense. When you face that, you need to be in prayer. You know, when we hear this, this is the first of 4 mentions of prayer in Nehemiah. He mentions it 4 different times, or 12 different times. It's the first of 12, on verse 4. So it's the first of 12. He mentions it 12 different times. The first happens to be in verse 4. He prays all the time. When something happens, he prays about it. He's looking for guidance. He's looking for help. Guys, when something happens in your life, do you pray about it? This morning, as I was walking around this building, I was in prayer. That was just before walking in to do service. What are we praying about? Are we in intense prayer? Do you get out there and you just go, God, you guide me, fill me with the wisdom, and lead me? Or do you just go, okay, God, this is what I'm going to do, and it doesn't really matter if you're with me or not? Because most of us just make decisions and walk out and, hey, we're going to go take care of this. Most of us are facing walls that are down, and it looks impossible. Most of us have things that are going on in our lives that the walls have crumbled. And we're looking and go, how do I fix this? How do I get rid of this? We have horrible relationships with our families. We have horrible situations at our jobs. We have this or that. Whatever it is, we have things that look like, and go, I want to rebuild the walls of this kingdom. I want to rebuild my life. But you first have to start with prayer. You first have to start and spend time with God and get in the Word. I hear so often do I hear this. God, I tithe, I give, I go to church, but my life sucks. You know why your life sucks? When was the last time you actually picked up the Bible and read it at home? If I'm the only one reading the Bible to you, then you are not reading the Bible at all. And if you don't pick it up and you go, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Open up the Word. There are so many different ways you can get it. You can get it on your phone, you can get it on your iPad, you can get it on your Android, you can get it on a book. It's right back there. If you don't have one, please take one. Please. We love giving them away. It's actually a passion of ours. It is your responsibility not to let it get covered with dust. I've used the line before. If your app takes more than 30 seconds to load when you turn it on your phone, it has been too long since you turned it on. It should pop right up. It should be, if your iPhone, you double-click the button, it pops up right there. It should always be going. Because you need that much time into it. You need to be able to spend time in the Word. You need to be able to spend time with God. And it doesn't happen by just coming to church on Sunday mornings and going, I got my fill. No. This is just the starting point. You get to fill during the week with your time. And you get to fill with God when you come to a group. You get to fill when you're having relationships with people here. This is just the beginning. We need to share our burdens. And we need to remember that with God, all things are possible. With God, everything can be accomplished. It's when we go without Him that we have failures. The last thing we need to do is we need to stand up and act. We can't just continue to ride as if everything is going right. If we want our family relationships to get better, it's time to change it. It's time to stand up and start acting. We can't sit on the sidelines and go, hey, you hear about that thing that's happening 1,000 miles away? That's cool. Let's just drink some more wine and get it over with. That's not what they did. You read what Nehemiah does. He takes wine to the king. And the king notices something. Nehemiah has never come out and been sad. He's never come in where he looks like he's been crying for days, because that's what has happened. You know, if you've ever seen somebody that's been crying, that just the tears have just continued to pour out of their face, you can tell that they're hurting, that their eyes are black, and you go, there's something wrong. We know it because we do the same thing with our family or in our relationships. If you're married, you know exactly. Your wife sits there, your husband sits next to you. You go, what's wrong? Because you know. They talk to you differently. They look at you differently. You know, why are you mad at me? You know, what's the deal? What happened? What's hurting you? This is the exact same situation. The king looks at him and goes, what's wrong? What's up? And I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my fathers are buried lies in ruins and the gates have been destroyed by fire? The king said to me, what is it you want? And then I prayed. So listen to this. He goes, what is it you want? The king, and the king's looking for an answer. He's not one of these people that's going to dilly-dally and wait. And he goes, what is it you want? And Nehemiah comes out and he goes, and then I prayed. And then I prayed. Because I needed God's guidance for what I really wanted. I need to know, God, you're going to be leading me in the right direction, because most of the time we don't know what we really want. We go, I want a $50,000 Escalade. I don't really want a $50,000 Escalade. I know that. I talk about it a lot, but I really don't want one, so don't bring it here next week. You know. Renee will take it. I'll drive her car. I prayed to the God of heaven, and I answered the king. If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city of Judah where my fathers are buried, so I can rebuild it. So I can rebuild it. And he didn't come out, he doesn't go, and he doesn't have this timeline. He doesn't go, I'm going to go do it in 52 days. I'm going to go take care of it right now. I'm going to go get over there, and it's going to happen immediately. He didn't care if it was going to take 52 days or 1,000 years. He's like, I just want to go fix it. I'm going to go make it happen. I'm not going to sit on the sideline and continue to watch it lay in ruin. I'm going to go fix this. And so he sees it, and he goes, I'm going to go out and take care of it. It's not okay. Not on my watch. Somebody has got to do something. It might as well be me. Somebody has to do something. It has to be better than this. Most of us are looking and go, there's so many problems in the world today. We have to be like Nehemiah. We have to just choose one. There are so many problems, and there may be tons of things that you sit down and, you might hear everything. You go, you might be overly emotional, and everything makes you cry. You might be that person. You're like, that cat got killed. That person's starving. This, whatever it is, you may be that person that looks at it and goes, I have to take care of that. We have to choose one problem. We have to choose one and go, I can fix that. You can't do everything, but you can do something. You can't do it all. So as we leave here today, and as we're gonna start closing out here in a second, but as we leave here, I encourage you is that whatever you wrote on those 2 lines, what is it that makes your heart hurt? What is it that sits there? What is it that you look at and go, that hurts me? And if you don't have anything there, now's just a perfect opportunity to go, well, I wasn't really paying attention to you. Let me go back to that and fill it in. I got dragged in here. There's heel marks out there. I know some of you guys did get dragged in here. I'm telling you this, guys, when you look at this, write it down, because you will never change anything if it doesn't sit there and look at you in the face. If you don't hear about it, if you're not actually talking about it and praying about it, it needs to be there. It needs to be something that you look at on a regular, and you go, I need to fix that. But you have to start someplace. You have to go, I'm not going to continue allowing the same thing go on and on and on and on again. And I guarantee it's something real close to you. I promise you it's something either at home or something right outside your door that you just look at and go, that bothers me. It could be as simple as I don't know. Guys, I'm telling you is that I walked out my door yesterday and there was a McDonald's box in my front lawn. And it bothered me that my family kept walking past it. Nobody stepped over to pick it up. What are we going to do to change it? What are we going to do to go, that bothers me, I'm going to fix that? Because it can start small. It's as small as a McDonald's box. Or maybe it's as big as rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. Where is it? You have to do something. We can't just sit on the sidelines. Because the more we sit on the sidelines, the more we become spectators. And the less we become participants. And we're supposed to live this life, not be spectators in this life. We're supposed to be participants. It's really time to change how we look at things and go, I'm just going to let life and I'm just going to continue to let things happen to me and not participate and just be an observer. Guys, it's time to change. It's time to move forward. We have 52 days right now that we're going to be in this series for 4 weeks. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. Big changes can happen immediately. Things can change around you. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this story from Nehemiah, and thank you so much for him just being able to show us that things that are far away can bother us and things that are close can bother us, but God, we need to seek you first. They can hurt and they can make us cry, but God, we need to seek you and find your wisdom and find you in prayer and be covered in intense prayer before we stand up and act. God, we ask that you that you fill us with wisdom, that you fill us with guidance, that you show us that the direction that we're going is the direction you want us to go. God, we need that wisdom to know that we were trying to change the right things, that we were trying to pursue the right things in our life, whether it's rebuilding our families or fighting against human trafficking. We need your guidance. We need your leadership. We need to continue to pursue you. We need your wisdom. God, we ask that you continue to pour down, and as long as we are reaching towards you, and as long as we are reaching out and we are trying to seek you, that you will continue to fill us with that wisdom. God, we ask for your favor as we go to rebuild the walls of our different kingdoms and our different situations, to help us avoid the obstacles. And we ask that you are with us as we leave here today. And all this we pray in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.